Alright, so welcome back to Everdell, the expansion packs, and for the core game. So, we already went over all the Legends cards, so now we've got some more cards to go over. These are cards from the Extra pack, and basically it adds 3 new construction cards and 3 new critter cards to the game that obviously worked together pretty well if you have both of them in your town. Just like with the other cards, if you have the construction card in your town, you can play the critter in your town for free. So that's really cool. And so the first cards that I got here are Carnival and the Juggler for the Carnival. So like always, I like to do the construction before the critters. So the cost for the Carnival is going to be 2 twigs and a pebble. It's a green production card. It is worth a point at the end of the game. And then you'll draw 1 card for each other green production in your city, or gain 1 resource for every 2 other green production cards in your city. So that's really interesting. So if you have a bunch of green production cards in your city, this is going to be very powerful. You'll get to draw a card for each one you have in your city. So if you have a few, you could definitely draw a few cards. Or instead, for every 2 green production cards in your city, you gain 1 resource. That would obviously include this one in the equation too. So as long as you had another green production card in your city, you could get 1 resource of your choice for every 2 in your city. So if you had like 4, 6, 8, you could get yourself a few resources of your choice every time you prepared for spring, and every time you prepared for autumn, and the first time you actually played this, and depending on, if you're playing with an expansion or something that lets you do this again. Still, that's really, really powerful. I like this one a lot. It's a really cool one. And then, of course, if you have the Carnival in your town, you can play the Juggler for free. So the Juggler, if you don't get to play for free, will cost you 2 berries to play in your town. He's a Tan Traveler card. He's worth 0 points at the end of the game. But then you pay 3 twigs to gain 4 points, or pay 1 twig to reveal 1 card from your deck as many times as you like. If the total base value of revealed cards is 6 or more, gain 6 points. Discard all revealed cards. So that's really interesting. If you have 3 twigs, you could just simply gain 4 points, 4 point tokens. So that's really cool. Or you could pay the 1 twig to reveal 1 card from your deck, from the deck, so not your deck, from the actual deck, as many times as you like. So if the total base value of the revealed cards is 6 or more, you gain 6 points, and you discard all revealed cards. So basically, you're going to be revealing a card from the deck, and you can do it as many times as you like. But then once you reach 6 or more, you could do it probably more than that, because I think you'll probably have to pick a number of how many you're going to reveal or something like that, because it says as many times as you like. And then if the total base value of the revealed cards is 6 or more, you'll get 6 points, and then all the revealed cards get discarded, of course. Which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing if there was something in there you needed. Or something in there that your opponent needed, of course. But you probably would have to pick, I would think. Let's see here. Let's take another look and see what Juggler says. It doesn't seem to have any addition. Okay, so with the Juggler, you immediately when played, you'll choose one of the 2 options. If you choose the second option, you may pay 1 twig to reveal 1 card from the deck as many times as you like. You do not have to decide how many times in advance. You may pay 1 twig at a time. If the total base point value of the revealed cards is 6 or more, gain 6 point tokens. So that's interesting. Obviously, you're going to pay 1 per card you reveal. So that's another thing. So if you can manage to obviously get 6 points after just a couple of twigs, then that's actually going to be cheaper than the first option, but it could be more expensive than the first option, especially if you keep getting 1 points on cards. So it's kind of like a nice little gamble, if you will, almost. Either you pay a whole bunch of twigs, if you have them, to basically reveal cards from the deck to get point tokens, to get 6, or or if you're lucky, you only have to pay a couple of twigs and you get the 6 points you need, and, you know, obviously that may not happen very often, but that's still kind of an interesting aspect, for sure. All right, so let's move on to the next two. All right, so here we have the Gazette and the Town Crier. So the Gazette is a blue governance card, and it's worth 3 points at the end of the game. It's going to give you 2 resin and 2 pebbles. That's how much it's going to cost, is 2 resin and 2 pebbles. And you'll play 1 point token here each time you achieve an event. So this is a blue governance card that's going to activate when you achieve an event. So that's interesting. I've never seen a blue governance card that does that. That's for sure. So that's interesting. You'll place 1 point token for each time you achieve an event. So if you only achieve 1 event, you're only going to get to place 1 token here, 1 point token. And then if there are at least 3 point tokens here at the end of the game, you'll gain 3 points more. So that's interesting. That's really interesting. But only if you manage to achieve 3 events. So if you didn't achieve 3 events, then at the end of the game, then you're not going to get 3 extra points. Still, you'll at least get 1 point for every time an extra additional point every time you achieve an event. So that's kind of interesting. And it's worth 3 points to the end of the game. So it's still worth having in your town, of course. But you better make sure you're going to try to achieve some events if you really want to make this worth the price. And then if you have the Gazette in your town, then you can play the Town Crier for free. So obviously, if you have the Town Crier too, it might definitely be worth playing the Gazette, because you also get to play the Town Crier for free. But if you don't have the Gazette in your town, you'll have to pay 2 berries to play the Town Crier in your town. Now, it's going to give you 2 extra points at the end of the game, which is cool. And since this is a green production card, you'll get to activate this ability at least a few times in the game. You may give 2 cards to an opponent. If you do, you get 3 point tokens. Well, that's really cool. I like that. So you don't have to do this, but if you decide to, and you give 2 cards to an opponent, then you're going to gain 3 points. That's really interesting. So this is totally worth doing, especially if you have cards you don't want in your town. Obviously, for sure. But you might just do it because you're getting the 3 points anyways. Maybe, maybe there is something you wanted in your town, but you might not get the chance to put it in your town, and so that would be worth doing. At least once, for sure. That's really, really powerful. If you manage to pull this off a few times, that's going to give you quite a few extra points, for sure. And then we have 2 more to go over, and then we'll be done. Okay. So here we have Skirble Stadium and Skirble, or Skirble Champion. Yeah, I believe that's how you pronounce it. So the red destination of Skirble Stadium is worth 2 points at the end of the game, and it's got an open sign on it. So if an opponent puts their critter here, because it's open, you're going to get an extra point token too. And then it costs a twig, a resin, and a pebble to put into your town. Now, when you do place a critter here, whether it's you or your opponent, you'll name a non-green card color and draw 4 cards. If any of the drawn cards match the named color, gain 3 point tokens. So it's kind of an interesting little gamble. I mean, I would obviously go for farm because there's a lot of farms in the game, in this game. So if you non-green. So you actually can't name a farm, so never mind. So that's interesting. That's going to be tough to do, obviously. So pick a card that hasn't been played yet, probably. You have a better chance. And then you'll reveal, if any of the drawn cards match the named color, you'll gain 3 points. but you still get 4 cards regardless of the case. So it's not complete. It's not a complete waste if you put a critter here. It's a good way of getting cards still, and of course, if you get lucky enough to guess one of the 4 cards right, you'll gain 3 additional points for the end of the game. So that's really powerful. It definitely might be worth trying at least once, for sure. And then, if you have Scribble Stadium in your town, you can play the Scribble Champion for free in your town. Well, that's really cool. But if you don't have the stadium, you'll have to pay 2 berries to pay his cost to put him in your town. Now, he is a purple prosperity card, and it's going to be worth 2 points at the end of the game. This is another interesting thing. It's hard to see from a distance, so we'll bring it up to the camera. But it says it may share a space with multiple Scribble Champions. That's really cool. There's actually 3 of these in the game, 3 Scribble Champions. So if you have another Scribble Champion somehow, you can actually have both of these Scribble Champions on the same spot, on top of each other. That's really cool. That is awesome. And then it's worth 2 additional points for each other Scribble Champion in your city. So that's powerful. That could definitely give you some extra points for sure. If you manage to get at least 2 of them in your town, that could be pretty powerful for sure. You could definitely be the Scribble Champion if you manage to pull that one off. So that's basically all the cards. I think, yeah, that's all of them in the game. And let's see here. It looks like there's a total of 2 town criers in the town. There's 2 carnivals in the town, in the game. So it's possible somebody could get the carnival and the town crier. But you probably will not get both in your town. You probably won't get 2 carnivals in your town. You probably won't get 2 town criers in your town because there's only 2 of each of them anyways. And, of course, since there's only 2 of them, there's no guarantee that any of them will actually show up. Let's see, there's 1, and there's at least 2 gazettes in the game. So there's 2 gazettes. I know for a fact there's 3 jugglers. So that one might show up more than some of the other ones. There's also 3 Scribble stadiums, and there's 3 Scribble champions. So you might see these show up because there's 3 of each of them in the game. Once you start mixing them up with the other cards, you might run into some of these for sure. That's pretty cool. And of course, for the Legends cards, which we went over in the last video, there was only 5 new construction cards and 5 new critters. And so I don't exactly know how the setup works with the Legends. But I think you only get maybe 1 per player or something like that. Let's take a look and see if it mentions it in the setup. Because I want to know that right now. It says, separate the legendary cards into constructions and critters. Shuffle and randomly deal each player 1 legendary construction and 1 legendary critter. These cards are held secret, but do not count against your hand limit, and are not considered to be in your hand. Place any remaining legendary cards back in the box unseen. Well, that's really cool. So that's another interesting setup. So each player is going to get 1 of these random constructions and 1 of these random critters. Now, since there's only 5 in total, if you were playing a 6-player game, there is no way you can play with these cards because there's only 5 of each, and you would need to give everyone 1 of each. So if you're playing with 6 players in Everdell because you have the Belfair expansion, you can't play with these if you're playing with 6 players, for sure. Of course, if you're playing with the Belfair expansion, you still want to play with these, and you're not playing with 6 players, go for it. But like I said, if you're playing with 6, you're not going to be able to play with these because there's only 5 of each. That's still pretty cool. And then they go into your hand, but they're not considered part of your hand because you want them in your hand so that way, because you don't want your opponents obviously seeing what cards you still have, etc., etc. But also, you also want to keep it all in secret, so the best way to do that is just to keep them all in your hand anyways. But because they're not part of it, if you have to discard cards, these are not going to be the ones you discard, probably. And, of course, if you have already 8 cards and you also have these in your hand, that's another cool thing. Somebody says, oh, you have more than 8 cards in your hand, you need to discard. You say, well, no, I don't. You guys have all played your legendary construction and critter cards. I still have mine. So, you know, that's pretty cool. It's because they don't count towards the hand limit. So that is phenomenal. Awesome. That is totally cool. All right, so thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.